it's Jill McCartney with the Northwest Oklahoma City Chamber, and we're here with Northwest Now Conversations with the Candidate. Today we are talking with Bradley Carter, who is a candidate for Oklahoma City Ward 1 on the City Council. Hi, Bradley. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Jill. Thank you for having me. Well, my name is Bradley Carter. I am a small business owner. I own Grounds for Compassion Coffee located in Bethany. I have been a resident of Ward 1 for 12 years now. I'm married with 5 children, and just that's kind of my life right now. That's how we go. So.
And tell me a little bit more about your business, because it's not just you make something and sell it. I think there's a little more to it. What is that all about?
Well, we actually started it by growing coffee in Haiti. After a couple years of being in Haiti, working there, my family and I grew from my wife and I and 2 kids to 5 kids. And so it was time for me to kind of stay home and be home. And so we had donated what we were doing in Haiti to a ministry called Mission of Hope Haiti out there. They've been there for over 25 years, and they're doing amazing things. And it allowed us to really stay and focus on our business here. And so we are called Grounds for Compassion, mainly for the simple fact that we use the coffee to be able to do an outreach, to be able to love on people. And it's amazing how many people will love to sit down and talk with you over a cup of coffee. So we've been able to utilize that to be able to open up and help out. We've been very fortunate with the sale of our coffee and the different businesses and organizations that we partnered with, that we get to do a lot of community outreach. So homelessness is one of the big focuses of our outreach and recovery. And it's kind of ironic how they both go hand in hand. So it's allowed us to work together with a number of different churches and organizations to figure out what we can do to help combat that. It's an ever growing and an ever changing situation. So I don't know that there's any one answer right now, but we try to do what we can and meet the need when we can and where we can.
And what was it that made you want to run for city council?
It was actually our neighbors and even a handful of our clients. They just, over the course of a couple of years, we've talked through politics, we've talked through life, and whenever we found out that our city council member James Greiner was no longer going to run for his seat, I was asked to consider it. So after much prayer and consideration and talks with my wife, we believe that this was the next step in the direction that we were supposed to go.
What other kinds of leadership, civic involvement, roles like that have you played preparing you for this?
Well, I've sat on a couple different boards that have been more ministry minded and civic, geared. The first one I sat on was a board that really helped govern kind of helping veterans. We worked through giving, different care, counseling, whatever it may be for PTSD, drug abuse, drug use, getting veterans the help that they need, basically in that sense. Unfortunately, that we ended up closing that board down. We had a couple different issues, and we transferred it into another organization, which after about 1.5 years, I later ended up sitting on that board. I was the president of that board, and we had a number of different recovery houses, some sober living houses. Just it was really more for our veterans again, as well as people who had recovery issues and needed help there. So I have since handed that off. I am now just running our business, but we do still kind of help out with the different recovery houses when we can. We also hire, from those recovery houses. Everyone who works for me is walking out recovery. So that's something that's really, dear to our heart and how we help out with our community. But I would say just leading from the position of our business is really where I'm focused at this point. And then heading into taking that experience to the city council so that we can lead by example is where I'd really like to see us go.
This district is really interestingly shaped and has some interesting dynamics. If you were explaining this district to someone that didn't know what it looked like, how would you describe it?
I would describe it as probably the craziest jigsaw puzzle piece you've ever seen. Just the way it's shaped and moved and formed is really kind of ironic. But we do span, the two different counties. So we have different dynamics on both sides of that. We go into multiple cities. It's kind of crazy the way things have been, or the lines have been drawn, and the way the city has annexed different property to kind of group it all in. But it is quite, a misshaped looking area for certain.
What do you feel like your role as a city council member would be in building good relationships and collaboration with those other municipalities?
Oh, I think it's paramount. I think, one of the bigger things that we're running on is the responsive leadership. That doesn't just span with the voters and with our neighbors and responding to them. It's also working, along with the other municipalities, like you said, the cities, the different school districts, the things that we would need to do. But also understanding kind of where, my lane is and isn't, and make sure I stay within that aspect of it and not overstepping my bounds. But, we're all neighbors. And we do need to work together to get the same goal, the same thing that we're trying to get done is to be a great city. We want to be something that our children can be proud of, and we want to make sure that we leave it for them as well. So I think the goal should ultimately be the same, and I hope that it is. For the people that we've talked to so far, it has been. So we're going to continue to move and work in those directions to make sure that we can do that.
You mentioned that it spans two different counties. How is that split up right now, or how many voters in each part of that?
Well, we have a very large ward. Landmass wise, the majority of the landmass belongs to Canadian County, but the majority of the people or the voters belong to Oklahoma County. I want to say it's only about 10% of the population that lives in Canadian County currently. So we've got nearly 70,000 people within Ward 1. And I'm sure it's a tough job to listen to every single one of them and to get everything done, but we're doing what we can right now to make sure that people have an avenue of communication into us so we can get that taken care of.
Canadian County is the fastest growing county in the state. We're going to be going into redistricting. Do you feel like with both Ward 1 and Ward 3 having so much Canadian County population that there should be Canadian County seat on the Oklahoma City Council?
Well, they definitely need representation. There's no doubt about that. I do live in Canadian County, so I'm hoping to be able to bring a voice for them to the city council. But at the same time, I work in Oklahoma County, so I get to see both sides of it. There's times I spend more time in Oklahoma County because of where I work than sleeping in my own house. But we have seen a lot of the different arguments or complaints or concerns that the citizens have. I get to experience on a daily basis. So I believe I'm going to bring a really good opinion, voice, and hopefully resolution to what these concerns are.
That leads us to resources. With so much growth happening out there, that there is more and more need for resources for roads, for parks, for police and services of all types. What is your plan for helping to get that distributed maybe more evenly?
Well, yes, equal distribution is a big concern, and it is something that it's one of the keys that I'm running on. We want to make sure that it goes across the line, but that's not just even Canadian County. I mean, there's northwest parts of Oklahoma County that aren't seeing that being equally distributed to them either. But I've never done anything really political like this. I've never sat on a political seat, but I've run businesses. I've run different organizations. And so it would be really, I would say, naive of me to get in and say that I'm going to be able to do this or I'm going to be able to do that without knowing how everything really works first. So my goal is to get in, learn the system, learn how this thing works, but then again, make sure that I am still being a voice for those people on both sides so that we can have that equal distribution, making sure that our voices aren't being muted and that we aren't forgotten. We love the fact that we've got a great downtown and an amazing and blustering brick town right now, but it's not a representation of where everybody's moving and living and then traveling to. So we need to make sure that we are putting a focus on that as well.
Is it your impression that city government operates like a business?
They do a lot of times, and I know our city council has run a little differently. It really runs more like a board of directors than it does in some other cities. So for that, yes, we are run kind of in that direction. And I think that's one of the reasons that I'm probably going to be one of the more better suited people to fill this seat, is I already understand how that operates and how those work.
You've mentioned several times what you're running on. If you knock on my door, what are you saying?
Well, we are a conservative voice there. We will stand for that aspect of it, but it doesn't mean that we're not willing to listen.
Well, so the keys that we're running on, we kind of like to call the Carter keys. Yes, we're running for the equal distribution for our areas, for the infrastructure. Of course, we want to fix our roads. That's one of the number one complaints that we're hearing as we're knocking doors and calling people. But we're also running on the fact that we support our public safety, our police officers, our firefighters. There's a whole lot of negativity and things that are running in that direction. And so we more than anything want people to know that we do stand behind our public safety and that we will support them in every step that we possibly can. So the fiscal responsibility of the city it falls on the shoulders of the city council, making sure that they're okay and that we're, balancing the budget, the public safety side of things, as well as the infrastructure. And so when it boils down to it, I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself, but it's our roads and it's our police and fire. And those are our bigger concerns right now, is to make sure that we are taking care of those who take care of us.
In looking at maps has certainly been pretty popular as it started. It's now in the 4th generation of that. What is your overall opinion of maps? Then more specifically about maps 4, do you have a favorite project, or is there anything that you think shouldn't be in there? Concept of maps is something that should go into the future with the maps 5, 6, or 7.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've liked maps. I think maps 1, 2, and 3 has been a pretty good deal and pretty good system for us. I'm a little concerned with maps 4. It looks a little convoluted, and there's some gray areas that I just don't fully understand. So I'm looking forward to working with our city, mayor and the other councilmen to kind of understand it better. I'm not saying I'm for it or against it at this point. I'd like to know more. Unfortunately, with the schedule we have with work and campaigning, I haven't had time to sit down and read all the papers and go through all the stuff. But like I said, I look forward to learning more about it. I want to make sure that we are handling it properly. And we've asked the voters to vote on this and keep this tax going each and every time. I just want to make sure that we're doing right by them. If we're not, then it's something that we need to investigate, look into a little bit further. But if we are, we need to do a good job of explaining that to them and letting them understand what we're going to be doing and how it's going to be used.
This is a nonpartisan seat. We've seen at the national level a lot of polarization and kind of acrimony right now. City council is supposed to be nonpartisan, but sometimes that seeps in. What do you feel like the role of politics is in this role?
We've talked about it a lot, and regardless of it being a nonpartisan seat, people know that's not really the case. If it were that nonpartisan, the mayor would be nonpartisan, but it's not. It's a party race on that side as well. We're seeing that regardless of nonpartisan, the parties do play in the positions that are being held. So we could probably call it that all we want, but regardless, it's going to have an effect on what we do and the decisions that we do make. Unfortunately, it is what it is. I don't know really how else to kind of explain it, but I can tell you from knocking the doors that we've knocked, people don't care that we tell them it's a nonpartisan race. They want to know what our affiliation is. And, we let them know it is what it is. So, and right now we have a good mixture of people on that city council. It's showing them though, and the people, that we can work together regardless of what the affiliation is or isn't. And I think that's where we really need to kind of more or less focus and step up, is that's our goal. And that's what we're going to do. So regardless of what my affiliation is, and regardless of what, say, another seat's affiliation is, our common goal on the city council is the people of Oklahoma City. And that's where our focus has to be. We can't let anything else muddy the water.
You talked about fiscal conservatism. And so do you feel like there's waste in the Oklahoma City budget? How do you go about finding that? Or
I don't know if there's waste in it. I'm sure that there is. I have yet to sit on a board or even look at my own budget and not see areas that have room for improvement. So until I'm able to sit there and really kind of go over things and look at it, I can't speak to that personally. I look forward to the opportunity of being able to. That's kind of one of our goals. I want to make sure that we're doing things right. I want to see what our ROI is for everything that we're doing, and making sure that it is something that is smart and useful. If it's not, then we have to look at other ways of spending that money, or how we can save money at the same time. But we have a very healthy budget. I have been able to look at little parts of it. We seem to be doing okay and managing it well. I think it's just time to make sure that we are a little bit more open about it and transparent with it.
so what are some things that you as a city council person would do to get more citizens in this area informed and even involved with things going on with City of Oklahoma City and businesses too, but citizens?
That's a great question. I think the city started doing a good job with making sure that everything's online, that they're, whether it's being Zoomed or, they have the YouTube channel, whatever they're doing, the recording or, making it live is a big first step. Making sure that citizens understand that they have the opportunity to watch it and be able to sign in is great. But since we started our campaign, we've also put out our cell phone number. We've put out our email address. They know exactly where our offices are. We're open up every Friday leading up to the election from 11:30 to 1 for a coffee with Carter, so that people can come in and talk to us, ask questions, get to know me a little bit more as well. But that they always have a number that can reach me on, an email address, so they can ask their questions one way or the other. We just want to be more open and have the opportunity to be a little bit more responsive as well. That's a start. I'm sure there's going to be other things that we come up with and other ways that we're going to be able to see that'll be a better, maybe even easier way to connect everyone. But for now, that's kind of where I'm at. But I look forward to learning more and seeing, the different opportunities that can present themselves.
In many places around the country, large metropolitan areas are having trouble right now within their police departments. And you mentioned that policing is one of your top priorities. And we've got several different things happening here. One is getting just any kind of basic services out to all the areas, but there also are matters of having a police force that reflects the makeup of the community. And that can be a really difficult thing. What do you think City of Oklahoma City needs to do in order to really address that challenge?
I think we've got one of the best police forces around, especially for a large metropolitan area. I would put our guys up against any other major city. Their training, their community service, everything they do top notch, in my opinion. I don't know that you could change a whole lot. I haven't been involved in law enforcement for 20 years. So for me to speak to what they do have to do or don't have to do would probably be pretty ignorant of me. I know we've got a lot of citizens that don't, appreciate our police officers or like kind of some of the stuff that is going on. But, you're going to have good cops. You've got bad cops, just like we've got good teachers and we've got bad teachers. You can't throw, everybody into a general, assumption of what it is or isn't. We've got an amazing police force. We've got a great bunch of guys and women. And I would say that we need to stop casting stones personally right now. We're judging before anybody is getting any of the full information. We're supposed to be a society that is innocent until proven guilty, but we're not acting like it. And for these men and women who go out and put their life on the line every single day for us, the second they step out of their house, and for us to put them under a microscope and judge them the way we do, I think that's really the aspect or the concern of mine that we're not conducive with the Oklahoma standard. And I'd like to see us get back to that. I do want to see, the officers do their job and do it right. But at the same time, we can't restrict them so much that they can't do it or won't or don't want to. So we've got to be really careful with the fine line that we're walking right now.
Tell me, what is something that distinguishes you from your opponent, and why should people vote for you?
Well, I've built businesses up. I'm running it right now. I've sat on like I said, I've sat on a couple different executive boards. We know how things run. I know how to balance budgets. I know how to look at spreadsheets. I know how to be responsive to my community. We've been working in our community for almost a dozen years plus. So I would say it's just a simple fact that, I've got the experience that he doesn't. I've also got the people right now in their ear, and I'm very fortunate to have that. I think our votes for the first round really reflect it. But I'm not the political guy. I'm not the one that, has tried to be political or, take the next steps in a political career. This is something that is a civic duty that I believe that, we're here to do, and it's not another step in my career. So my focus is going to be for our voters and our citizens. It's not on myself.